I love it. Well, shall we get going? It's about 5 after. Looks like we have a good amount joining us. So hello, everyone. Welcome to our webinar this evening, Study Secrets, a guide to setting preteens up for success. Thank you for joining us this evening. Oh, we're switched over here on me. There we go. My name is Michelle, and I am the owner of Tutoring Club of McLean in North Arlington. And tonight's webinar is the second in our series of actually 3, where we focus on different age groups and provide some study tips that you can help your kiddos with. And tonight's webinar, of course, is focused on grades 5 through 8, so those middle school years. And then towards the end of the presentation, we will have an opportunity for you to submit some questions. Actually, you can do that throughout the presentation, and then we will answer those live by our lovely panelists at the end of the presentation. Sound good? Thanks so much for attending. Let's go ahead and dive in. So our panelists this evening are 3 wonderful educators with a lot of collective knowledge about preteen development and study skills. We are so thrilled to have them with us today. I'll provide a quick rundown right now, and then they'll have a chance further into our presentation to discuss their backgrounds and services a little bit further. So first up, we have Carol Muleta. Carol is a certified parent educator and consultant, and she's the creator of Parenting 411, which is a portal where she engages parents, taking them from that state of overwhelmed to feeling overjoyed. She guides parents in building strong family connections and fostering their children's success in academic and life. She was named 2019 DC Mother of the Year by American Mothers, Inc. Congratulations, Carol. And she is co-founder of a parent education and consulting company where she designs parenting programs and privately consults with families. She hosts the Parenting 411 radio show where she explores various matters affecting family life, from discipline and communications to work-life harmony and co-parenting. She was named Radio Personality of the Year at SpeakerCon 2019. She is a contributing author of Courageous Enough to Launch, Stories and Strategies of Everyday Women Who Face Their Fears to Launch Thriving Businesses. She is author of the upcoming book, Mother's Work, Pearls of Wisdom and Gems from My Journey. And Carol and her husband are the proud parents of 2 young adult sons. Welcome, Carol. Thanks so much for joining us this evening.
Thank you for having me.
And next we have Karen Ewert with the Sycamore School. Karen is the founder and head of school at the Sycamore School, otherwise known as TSS. And it is an independent private secondary school in Arlington, Virginia. They provide personalized, inquiry-based experiential learning, helping students make connections across content areas and to the real world. Karen is a licensed clinical psychologist who has worked in public and private schools for over 20 years, serving as a therapist, clinical director, and director. She has extensive experience developing and implementing character education programs, social skills curricula, and school-wide behavior management systems. She has created and presented seminars to students, parents, and educational professionals on topics including multicultural awareness, conflict resolution, anti-bullying, mental health issues, learning disabilities, and psychological assessment. Karen holds a bachelor degree in psychology from Vanderbilt University, a master's degree in psychology from American University, and a doctorate in clinical psychology from the California School of Professional Psychology. Welcome, Karen. We're so excited to have you here.
It's a pleasure to be here.
Thank you. And last but not least, we have Fran F. And my notes disappeared for Fran. So Fran, would you like to tell us a little bit about yourself?
I have been I started teaching over 20 years ago at the Foreman School, which specializes in dyslexia in Connecticut. And that really started a lifelong interest in how dyslexia, self-esteem, learning challenges all affect academic success, all from the very beginning of school till later. I also, then I got a master's in psychology, along with the other panelists, a lot of psychologists here today. And I taught college for over 20 years. I taught adolescent psychology, adult psychology, and child development in Massachusetts for quite a while before moving here to Virginia because my spouse switched jobs and companies.
Well, thank you so much for joining us, Fran. We're so honored to have you here this evening, and Fran is one of our reading specialists at the Tutoring Club. So thank you for taking time to be with us tonight, Fran.
Thank you.
So, such great experience. I don't know about all of you, but I'm really excited to hear what everybody has to share tonight for this, this age group. Tonight, I have the pleasure of moderating our presentation with my co-host, Catherine Carroll. So Catherine recently joined Tutoring Club as our Assistant Enrollment Director. She received both her Bachelor of Science and her first master's degree from James Madison University, where she studied elementary education and family studies. A Northern Virginia native, Catherine taught elementary school in Fairfax County Public Schools for 5 years before leaving the classroom to work in higher education as an admissions recruiter. In addition, Catherine coached Girls on the Run for over 7 seasons and helped found the Marathon Running Club chapter within her school. Prior to joining Tutoring Club, Catherine already had familiarity with tutoring services and creating individualized plans for students from her independent contracting days. Her enthusiasm for education does not stop with others. She is also an ardent believer in lifelong learning for herself and has been pursuing an online MBA degree with the Jack Welch Management Institute. Welcome, Catherine. Thank you so much for joining us tonight as well.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm thrilled to be here for part 2 of our webinar, and I'm beyond excited for all of the expertise that we have joining us this evening. I also wanted to go ahead and talk a little bit more about Michelle. She is passionate about helping students and her staff work to their fullest potential and to crush their goals. Motivated by a love of teaching and mentoring, Michelle opened our award-winning center over 10.5 years ago. After a 20-plus year leadership career in retail, hospitality, and professional services for industry-leading organizations, Michelle then made the decision to use her vast experience to improve the lives of children through education. So as the owner and director of Tutoring Club of McLean, she works with students, hundreds of students every single year of all ages and skill levels, and oversees its staff of up to about 20 total. Our success at Tutoring Club has been spurred by our hands-on approach, our amazing staff, and the nurturing environment that Michelle has cultivated throughout the years. Michelle is also committed to strengthening our communities and giving back, and believes that we can all make a difference in the world in which we live. Improving youth literacy in our area is of particular importance to her and is what led to hosting yearly book drives for local organizations who run after-school or summer reading programs, and to developing an upcoming scholarship program for children in need who would otherwise not be able to avail themselves to private tutoring services. Welcome again, Michelle.
Thank you.
And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into tonight's presentation. So to give the rundown, tonight we will start things off by giving a short presentation based off of the combined information and expertise provided by our lovely panelists, as well as our own. Then we'll go into an open discussion with our panelists. Next, we will give a quick overview of each of our services, and then we will finish off the evening with a live Q&A in which you can ask any questions that you might have. As Michelle mentioned before, feel free to type those questions into the Q&A box throughout the webinar, and we will certainly get to as many as we can when the time comes. Let's go ahead and get started.
Great. Thank you, Catherine. Every parent's favorite age. Am I right? So students in grades 5 through 8 fall into the category of preteens. It's around this time that students start going through that most dreaded time in every kiddo's life, puberty. For girls, it typically starts about ages 8 to 13, and for boys, it's a bit later, between ages 9 and 14. So from a physical perspective, there are two key development processes happening simultaneously. First, the frontal lobe is still developing and wiring up. And then second, the endocrine system is getting a hormonal kickstart from the onset of puberty. That frontal lobe is responsible for regulating emotions, tamping down emotions, organizing thoughts and planning, whereas the endocrine system is in charge of that hormone regulation. So you might be asking yourself, what does puberty have to do with study skills? The answer is a whole lot. Study skills come under that umbrella of executive functioning skills, which you'll remember is regulated by the still developing frontal lobes of our kiddos. These skills consist of three brain functions: working memory, which is the ability to remember information in the short term; that cognitive or mental flexibility, which refers to our ability to sustain or shift attention as needed; and then self-control, which refers to the ability to resist those impulses and manage those strong emotions that we feel. These functions help you regulate your behavior, tamp down your emotions, like we said earlier, keep yourself organized, and complete tasks. You can imagine the study skills that depend upon those functions. Some examples of study skills that depend on executive functions are breaking down a large assignment into more manageable steps, or paying attention to those details, recalling information that was taught in a previous module, or making a study plan and actually sticking to it, or switching focus from one assignment to another. This is a difficult time for students, and the physical, the emotional, and mental changes that they're going through can negatively impact their study habits in a number of ways. So for starters, you may notice that your student wants to stay up late and sleep in longer. However, during the week, they still have to get up early to go to school, even if they've stayed up late. So not getting enough sleep can exacerbate some of the physical and emotional stress that they are already facing. Those hormonal surges and an underdeveloped frontal lobe can cause a lack of impulse control. Students in this age group often have difficulty seeing others' perspectives, which can make them argumentative and prone to emotional outbursts. Problems with staying organized can often reveal themselves here, as students have to juggle multiple subjects taught by different teachers who have different expectations and teaching styles. They also have to be more, manage more physical activity with moving between classes and managing more books and materials during the course of a day. Delayed gratification and commitment are called for as students move from assignments with quick turnaround times to more of those project-based work with longer timelines and milestones. It can be difficult for students to adapt and learn to independently break down these long-term assignments into more manageable chunks. Fitting in often becomes a priority for kiddos around this time too. Comments from friends or peers that studying isn't cool or homework just isn't important can have a real impact. Unwanted physical changes brought on by shifting hormones can cause low self-esteem or a lack of confidence that can translate poorly into their schoolwork. More distractions start presenting themselves in the forms of new friends, crushes, technology, and the list goes on. Students are more easily distracted around this time and don't realize that listening to music, checking their phone, and switching screens dramatically lessens their productivity and focus. We were just talking about this earlier. But we don't want anyone to fret. There are some simple tactics that you can implement at home to keep your student on track and help them to strengthen those positive study habits. First, set up a routine for completing homework. Have a set location and time. Break down homework into maybe 20-25-minute increments with breaks. It can be a huge help in keeping your student focused and engaged. Students often need startup help. Starting homework sometimes can feel so overwhelming, so giving them an initial task that they can complete easily is a good way to start to build that confidence. Provide them with a study toolbox. Stock their workspace with tools related to their grade level. So for example, a weekly planner, protractor, calculator, highlighters, instead of maybe crayons and colored pencils that they had when they were younger. Help them to create study aids and memory tools like flashcards, mnemonics, book report outlines. Offer incentives and motivators. Ask yourself, what is my student willing to work for that I can reasonably offer them? Usually at this age, it's more game time or screen time, but maybe it's something like, their choice of dinner or a pizza night or having friends over. You can get creative based on what your students actually enjoy. And encourage extracurricular activities. This ensures that there's that balance in students' life and allows them to learn a skill outside of school that may spark their interest and can actually help improve their self-esteem. Remember to include these activities though on the family calendar or in their planner that we just talked about, so your student sees their full load and can shift priorities as necessary. And then finally, remember to pick your battles. Address critical issues as a teaching moment and try to take a moment to breathe before reacting to those negative behaviors. Remember, you're looking for entry into their world and not to actually get shut out of it. For studying and homework issues, we recommend correcting or working on just one study habit at a time so it doesn't seem too overwhelming for the child. So with that, some general ideas right now. We're going to open it up to our wonderful panelists for some questions. Catherine.
Thanks so much, Michelle, and such great advice that we already were exposed to. So I can't wait to see what else we're going to learn here. The first question that we have this evening is, what changes in behavior can we expect from our students as they transition from elementary to middle school or as they head into puberty? Carol, we're going to start with you.
All right. Well, as Michelle talked about, there is just this massive rewiring that is going on in the brain, and it starts at age 12 and goes as far as 25. So maybe 26 for some boys. But because of that, they're dealing with a lot of emotions. I mean, 1 minute, they don't want to have anything to do with you. They don't want you telling them what to do. And the next minute, they're curled up next to you in the family room on the couch, maybe crying or something. So we have to show them some grace and recognize what's going on. There's also, this is also a period where they're going to try to be more independent and pull away a bit from you. They're testing out the values and ideas that you have shared at home. They're sounding it out, seeing if that's kind of the way other people are living too. So they wanna be independent and stand on their own. And you did allude to it. There's, with these changes going on, the dopamine and oxytocin coursing through their brains, there's the thrill-seeking, not delayed gratification. They want things to happen right away. And they also are so sensitive to their peers' approval. So those are some of the things that you can see. No more hugs in public for a little while, Mom.
Thank you so much, Carol. Karen, we're going to go over to you now.
Certainly. So we see this firsthand at the Sycamore School because we serve students 5th through 12th grade. And so our young students coming from elementary school have more openness, enthusiasm. Those kiddos will, try new activities and are just kind of more unbridled with their emotions. And as they get a little bit older into 6th and 7th grade, you see them develop this developmental egocentrism and self-consciousness. And this is developmentally appropriate, but they become more reticent. They pull back. They aren't necessarily as eager to participate in new things, to take risks. They might often turn away from you or not be as forthcoming with their parents. And again, this is developmentally normal. So you're used to your child coming home and telling you all about their day and talking with you. And then all of a sudden, your child might seem like they're more distant. They're keeping things from you. They're not really telling you about how they're doing or what's going on in their life. And you kind of feel like you have to be a detective and figure out ways to engage them. I hear from a lot of parents that the way to get middle schoolers to talk to them is to do something else. So if you're cooking dinner, if you're on your computer, if you're driving, those are the kind of the moments that your middle schooler will start to talk to you and engage with you. So it's, as a parent, it's finding those moments when your student's willing to open up to you. So middle school parents, hold on. It is a bumpy ride, and every child is different, but you do see these changes in their demeanor and how they're managing their emotions, and how they're disclosing to you, and it is normal. And so it does take adjusting as a parent to know how to react to that. Also in terms of limit setting and freedom. So these kids crave freedom. They crave responsibility. They want to be treated as mini adults. A lot of them can't wait to grow up. And so they are looking for more independence, but they still need a lot of structure and guidance. And so a key is to really giving them that balance, giving them a chance to do more, recognizing that it might not go well the first time, and that's okay. So it is, I think, one of the most challenging times for parents and for the kids themselves, because they don't feel secure. They're developmentally in a point of transition. And so you have to be kind to yourself and kind to your middle schooler, even when they don't always behave in a way that you would like to be patient with them. So it's rough, it can be rough, but it is transient. It will not last forever.
Excellent feedback, Karen. And then Fran, we're going to turn over to you now.
Thank you. I think that I'll just underscore what everybody else has said, is that this is a time of life like entering an amazing amusement park for your kid, because you don't know which ride they're on any particular day. It could be the roller coaster. That's a super roller coaster that's going up and down, and it could be literally happening in minutes. It also could be a nice, smooth merry-go-round ride where it's just a nice, smooth day. But because this is one of the few times in life where everything is kind of coming together in a big clash. The physical changes with puberty, the cognitive changes where they're becoming a little more abstract in their thinking, so they're becoming aware of what's going on in their environment, but they don't have a lot of points of reference. So usually it involves their point of reference and how it affects them. So they may seem a little self-centered, but really it's their point of reference. And then their social emotional changes, how school now is not just about the teacher, it's about their friends, it's about their grades, it's about how they're performing, about how they fit in. And then, as Michelle said earlier, sleep is an issue for a lot of this age group, that there's a sleep deficit. And if there's a sleep deficit, that overclouds everything: their mood, their anxiety level, their argumentative level. And I just think it's important to kind of take a step back, as everybody has said, and not just react immediately to some of these clashes that you're going to encounter. My preteen now is 27 years old, and I still very clearly remember lots of preteen years and issues.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Fran. And it was interesting because a lot of you had discussed how it's important to not be super reactive, which was something we talked about a lot in our first webinar for the younger grades. So I think that definitely transitions to the middle years as well. Our second question is, how important are middle school grades and performance really? What impact do they have on a student's well-being overall? Karen, we're going to start with you for this one.
So I may be an outlier in this opinion, but I'm not a big proponent of worrying or emphasizing grades. I think that in middle school, it's about skill development, and it's about our kids learning all those great executive functioning skills. So it's learning how to navigate going to different classes and understanding that different teachers have different rules and way of doing things, and There's so many skills that they're developing and learning, not just academic skills, but socio-emotional skills. And so I think them gaining confidence, gaining self-esteem, feeling good about themselves, having healthy relationships with their friends, that's what's important. Honestly, who's looking at their grades in middle school? So I think parents, we have to take a deep breath. And some of your kids will do well and it won't be an issue. But for a lot of kids, middle school can be bumpy with grades. The workload goes up, the expectations go up. For kids who have any struggles with managing homework and managing lots of different things at once, it can be, as Fran said, a roller coaster ride. And so I think it's important to keep your eye on what are your children developing the skills they need to? Are they feeling good emotionally? And just helping them keep grounded and keeping things in perspective. And I think if coming out of middle school, you want them going into high school with some sense of self, some sense of their strengths, self-awareness of what they're good at, of what they need help at, and that they can advocate for themselves. So that's what I think is most important over grades.
Absolutely. Thanks so much. Fran, would you like to add to that?
Yes. Preteens, because they're becoming more abstract and aware of their environment and how they fit into the world, and their world really is school at this point. Grades can be a real issue because it's just one more way of society saying, oh, this is what you are, and now you're starting to be labeled as, you know, an A student, B student. And they can cause a lot of friction. And as Karen said, no one's looking at middle school transcripts, but parents know that in the long run, the grades will become important, and maybe parents might get a little too anxious that grades are too important. And if the preteen thinks that all the parent cares about is the grades, the preteen may start to think, oh, the parent really cares about is the grades, and then they care more about that than they care about me. And some kids do struggle with grades. So you do have to be aware, like Karen said, you have to develop some competencies. And if the school is an issue, academic performance is an issue, then try to find a skill that the preteen can excel at outside of academics, whether it's art, dance, music, band, something that will help them with their self-esteem, because academics will only get more challenging as school progresses and into high school. And a couple of good ways are, tutoring does help with helping develop confidence and getting those academic basics down.
Wonderful. Thanks, Fran. And then Carol, we turn to you for this one as well.
Sure. First of all, let me come out and say that I am on the side of Karen as well as Fran, that the emphasis shouldn't be 100% on grades. It's very important that they develop solid study skills, good self-discipline, and importantly, problem-solving skills. Having said that, though, we don't forget about grades because they can be a measure of the extent to which your child has grasped the content that they have learned or that they've received in their classroom. So that's important as well. And then, let's face it, the grades that they earn in middle school can dictate their placement in high school, and that may matter if you have a child that already knows they're going to be pre-med or something, or computer science or engineering, where their math placement might matter. So it does matter in that sense, just to see how your child is doing. But again, even a child that does really well in middle school, and there have been studies that have shown that particularly if children are not able to make a 3.0 in middle school, that it can portend some difficulties in high school. However, if they develop solid study skills, They have the problem-solving skills that I talked about, as well as self-discipline and solid self-esteem, that can really make a difference in helping them get over the hump. And I would also submit that students that have great grades but don't have those four things, they're going to struggle too. So pay attention to grades as a measure of how they're doing and how well they understand, but really focus on your child and use middle school as a time to build up those other skills.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, ladies. I completely agree with all three of you that while it's important to pay attention to the grades, it's definitely important to look at the skills that they're developing as well. And so the next question that we have for this evening is, how does an online-based curriculum affect our young students in building study skills, which is something that a lot of parents have questions about right now with current virtual learning. Fran, we're going to start with you for this one.
Thank you. So making a connection online is just different than making connections face-to-face, whether you're in school or in a meeting. However, this is a great time to teach certain skills. So one skill you can definitely start teaching now is mental agility and mental flexibility skills. So how to solve problems, how to be innovative, how to adapt to uncertainty in the face of multiple challenges. And it also helps to acknowledge that maybe online isn't ideal for learning, but it is with us for the foreseeable future. So I emphasize at this point with online-based curriculum, pacing and time management. How long can your preteen effectively concentrate while attending school via a computer? While your preteen might be able to stare at a computer for hours playing their favorite video game, school is just different. It doesn't have all the graphics, the noises, the prizes, and all the rewards that you can find in a video game. So for pacing and time management, learn to help your preteen take effective study breaks. And then they can return with renewed concentration. They should have a notebook where they're actually physically taking notes like they would if they were in school with a pen or pencil, and they can doodle too. Doodling is very creative. Pacing and homework, kind of similar. Set aside a consistent time a day and length of time to work on homework. It's better to space it out over the course of a week rather than cram it in and all in one day. It's a good time to develop that tolerance to frustration, where we all have challenges right now with computer technology. So learning to ask for help and learning to tolerate all those breaks that happen when you're trying to do something online sometimes, it helps set up for future success. I also think that movement and exercise are absolutely critical for online learning, that you're not doing it while you're online, but you need to step away from the computer and get out and exercise and get fresh air. I also think you should set up study spots or a spot to help decrease distraction, to help increase concentration. And probably one of the best things to do right now is just find a time to unplug each day so you can relax. Don't worry about the technology, don't worry about the screen, put your phone away, and if it's a family outing, a family walk, or a family board game, B-O-A-R-D, that would be really helpful. Pictionary is a great one to start with.
Thank you so much, Fran. Carol, what would you like to add to this one?
Well, I agree with Fran. I mean, particularly those students 13 and under, their brains are just not wired for this kind of on-screen learning for hours on end. Yet a good part of their day may be spent that way and they have no control over that. But please take advantage of any breaks that the school curricula provide. I have to pat some school districts on the back. They got this pretty early, back in March or when we first started this, they had done that. And so definitely taking walks or doing other physical activities will make a very big difference. Yet in the time that they do have to spend in front of the screen, all of the things you talked about, they can practice their focus skills and time management. And then also, I would also say that make sure that they have some kind of after school programs that they can tap into. Not too many, you don't want to overschedule them, because if there's one thing that's a benefit of us doing all of this learning at home is that you're not commuting, dropping your kids off at all these extracurricular activities. So, you know, it could be an online athletic training program or art program or science. And I say it's online because the person's speaking, but it doesn't mean they have to be sitting in front of the screen to do it. You know, they can hear the person's voice, but still be getting physical activity and just getting other stimulation than just sitting there looking at a talking head on the screen.
Absolutely. I've actually been really impressed by some of the extracurriculars that have been creative during this time as well. So I side with you there, Carol. Karen, would you like to add to this one too?
Sure. I think that online learning has really put a magnifying glass on where each student is in terms of their organization and study skills. And so what's happened is that, you know, it has taken away the extent to which teachers or peers or parents have been supporting the kids. And so when you go to online learning, you really see where the gaps are. And this is an opportunity to really understand what your student does well and what they really may need help with. And what I saw is that kind of kids were everywhere. So some kids like weren't even able to get to class, like developing a basic schedule for themselves was challenging. And so you really need to start wherever your child is. So it may be starting with having a schedule on the whiteboard in your house, and so that your child knows when each class is, when they need to be getting on their class, how long that class is. So I feel like with some kids, it's starting with making sure they're getting up in the morning, making sure they're literally showing up to their class. That may be where you are with your kiddo, is just showing up. And that's okay. If that's where they are, that's where you're going to start. If you have a student who is already there, is more organized, then it is an opportunity to, what kind of planner do they prefer? Do they prefer, you know, an online calendar? Do they prefer a paper calendar? Do they know how to take long-term tasks and scaffold them and break them into manageable chunks? What kind of things are causing them anxiety, and how can we help them reduce that anxiety? Making the unknown known, taking something that's daunting and making it doable. So again, it's kind of a litmus test to figure out where your child is and where the next step is, and engaging people outside yourself, because as a parent right now, it's a tough job. And so I do think that if your child needs extra help, engaging an executive functioning skills coach, a tutor, somebody else to help manage it, to take the emotion out of it, so that you can focus on being a parent and supporting your child emotionally, and that you don't have to engage in a power struggle and be their teacher as well as their parent.
Wonderful. That was really excellent advice, Karen. Thank you so much. And we have one final question. So in terms of the pitfalls for this age group, and in addition to the pitfalls, the solutions to combat those as well, we are looking if you might have anything to add at this point. Carol, we'll turn to you first.
I just think that families need to take advantage of this time. I think there has been, I predicted, and I think it's still true, that there's a silver lining in all this time that you're able to spend at home and not be in a car driving to work and to the extracurricular activities and things like that. So there are lots of skills that parents have time to work on with their children. They're not as busy. So I think it's a great time to teach life skills, not only about not only around the house, what it takes to keep the house running smoothly, but all of the things we've talked about, time management skills, problem solving. This is a great opportunity for them to try new things and just really give them an exercise in making choices, making good decisions, because we're not going to be in our homes like this all the time, but these are great skills that children will be able to take out with them into the world. So please take advantage of this time together. It may not happen like this again.
Absolutely. Karen?
Yes, as for this age group, I think as parents, we have to take a step back, and this can be really hard. We need to stop doing so much for our kids. I see a lot of parents that are doing the homework for their kids, or if their kid forgets their lunch, bringing it to school for them, maybe not right out this moment, but if the child forgets something or has a problem, they rush to fix it. We need to step back. Your kid's is in middle school, going into high school, and they need to learn to do for themselves. Life's not going to end if they don't have their water bottle. And so I think it's important to start teaching that independence, personal responsibility, and natural consequences. I know that parents don't mean this to be the intention, but when you do for your kids, you're giving them the message that you don't think they can do it for themselves. And so we have to give kids some confidence and some reassurance that we know they can do it, and that it doesn't have to be perfect. So it is turning over some of the responsibility, saying, I expect you now to be able to help with dinner. I expect you to be able to do your own laundry. And we can do it. A great activity is I do, we do, you do. So it's at first you show your student how to do something, and then you do it together with them. And then the expectation is that they do it themselves. And as parents, we're so busy, it's easier to do it ourselves. But in order to teach our kids, we need to take that time to show them, do it with them, and then say, okay, it's your turn. And I think this is really important, and it ties into what Carol's saying. This is an opportunity to have kids learn life skills, to have more independence, but it's going to be bumpy. They're going to make mistakes. They're not going to always do it right, and that's okay. But these are things that our children need to be able to do in order to be independent adults.
Absolutely. And then finally, Fran, would you like to close out the question here?
Well, thank you. So I like everything that Carol and Karen have said. And I think it is especially important to reiterate that what Carol said, that there is a silver lining to this time, that parents now can see what's happening in a 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th graders classroom where they never could before, and we're shut out. Oh, I'm fine. So it is important to take a step back during this time and to remember to take a step back. And that's probably the hardest thing, is for the parent to say, okay, this is a boundary issue. It's not critical. It doesn't need an absolute immediate concern. So let's see if you can solve it first. And then if you need help, learn to ask for help. I think learning to advocate for themselves is a really critical skill that they're going to need, regardless of what happens in academics and how academics will change or professions will change in the future. You always need to advocate for yourself. So just a couple of things. One is boundary testing issues. You kind of have to decide, is this a boundary issue or is this a critical safety issue? If it's a boundary issue, I used to say, that department is closed right now. It'll open in 5 minutes, because I didn't want to get mad and just escalate the fight that was about to happen. So I said, give me 5 minutes. The department will open and we'll deal with it then. If it's a critical issue that involves safety, that's a different story. That needs to be resolved immediately, and it needs immediate attention. And I also want to reiterate, I know that this is a Tutoring Club of McLean seminar, but tutoring does help a lot. It's exactly what Karen was saying, that it takes the parent out of that friction and lets the parent be the parent and let the tutor work on academic and confidence skills.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, everyone. And Michelle, I'm going to turn it back over to you now.
You would think after 6 months of being on Zooms, I would know to unmute myself, right? Well, thank you everybody for that great feedback. So much of it, resonated with me and what we, talk our parents through. Just, really, Carol, when you were talking about now's the time to really just develop those strong study skills. And we see just the transition as students go into high school and then college, where they're on their own and they no longer have their parents supporting them. If they can just, build those up right now, find the system that works for them, make the mistakes, and then go in through confidently, they're making the dean's list when they get into college. So I really like that. And then Karen, I like the I do, we do, you do. So I like that one a lot. I'm going to use that one myself. So now that we've given everybody some information on those developmental stages of this age group, some of those pitfalls and great solutions to studying, and the importance of continuing to strengthen those positive study habits right now for upper elementary and middle school students, we're just going to take a few minutes to give you a little bit more information on each of our organizations and how we might be able to support your students in achieving their academic success. So first, a little bit about us. Tutoring Club is an education center for all ages and abilities. We provide individualized academic assistance and coaching and create a customized game plan for each of our students. So whether that's actual subject matter expertise or it's the study skills that we were just talking about. We are located on the border of McLean and North Arlington and provide both online and in-person tutoring and academic coaching. Our mission is to provide students with early learning to college preparation with the resources and opportunity to become those confident and self-motivated learners for life. Our team is made up of highly trained, caring, and passionate education professionals like Catherine and Fran, who you see here, dedicated to every student's success. Our families quickly grow to appreciate us for our warm, engaging, fun, and nurturing environment, our flexibility, and ultimately those results that we provide. So for our new customers participating in this webinar today, we're offering a limited time discount, and I'm actually going to throw in a second one. We don't have it on here on the slide, but I think it's really relevant to what we've been discussing. So for new customers, we're offering 50% off our initial student assessment to, see where our students are at skill-wise, and then a free trial session plus a free consultation with parents to discuss the results and proposed tutoring plan of action. So that's normally $275, and for the next 2 weeks, we will be offering that for just $75, and we'll have more information on the end or an email afterwards on how you can redeem that. I'd also like to offer, we're doing an online study skills course for grades 5 through 12. It's led by a live instructor. It's over a course or a period of 8 weeks. It's normally $7.99. So I'd like to offer that for 50% discount for $3.99. And we will provide more details for that as well. So Fran, anything that you would add real quickly from a TC educator perspective?
Sure. I try to improve a student's confidence in the long run. And I try to start with maybe an easier exercise that the student can master and then move to more challenging exercises. I try to improve their creativity and mental agility with quick little puzzles or games or mnemonic devices to help them with different exercises. Try to improve their concentration and encourage them to try just one more answer, try to solve that next one. See how you can do that. And then I also try to offer some motivations like, let's get through this. And then if we have a few minutes, we can talk about something that's more fun, such as that they might really like Minecraft is pretty popular right now. And the goal really is to improve their confidence and to help them become independent learners, because in the future, they're going to face increasingly complicated problems as they mature and into high school.
Great, thank you, Fran. Our kiddos sure do love that too. So Carol, can you share with us a little bit more about the Parenting 411 and how you bring those parents from kind of that overwhelmed to overjoyed?
Sure. So the Parenting 411, as you described, is a portal through which I can reach parents. My mission is to deliver information parents need from sources they can trust. And I do that through parent talks, live events, webinars, also through my radio show, the Parenting 411 show, which airs on WOLV 1010 AM Talk Radio in Baltimore on Radio 1. And through private consultations, I have launched a new program called the Parenting with Vision program. And so essentially, when parents work with me, they get their joy back. We create a parenting philosophy that complements the personality of their child, restores order in the home so moms and dads can breathe, and the child can break through to reach his full potential. And so for viewers here for this webinar, I'm offering a special package. It's called the Focus Zone. It's a coaching package. I say that it's a 2-hour package, but that's a little facetious. There is a little more work on my part that goes into that, but we spend about 2 hours, one on either end. But it gives you an opportunity to redirect challenging behavior. So we select one problem that they really want to work on, and we will work on it through the Focus Zone coaching package. And if you are interested, you can go to www.parentingwithvision.com/2020, and I would love to work with you.
Great, thank you, Carol. That's awesome. And then Karen, we'd love to hear more about the Sycamore School.
Certainly. So we're an independent nonprofit secondary school that's located in the Ballston area of Arlington, and we serve 5th through 12th graders. Our model is a mastery-based model, so it means that we focus on skill building, and the idea is in middle school building those academic and socio-emotional skills, and then in high school the students learn how to apply those skills across settings. We have an average, I think it's 1 to 6 teacher to student ratio. There's a focus on really engaging learning, that kids are driving the learning. And so it's important that they're actively involved in that process. We're currently offering full-time in-person instruction and virtual, so families can decide if they want their student to come in person or participate remotely. And right now we have about, I think 95% of our families are having their students participate in person. We do have a few spaces still available for this year in middle school and high school, so you can go to our website for more information.
Great, thank you. So Catherine, do we have time for any questions or?
Absolutely. So we're reaching the end of the webinar here, but so one question that I would love to ask all of you so that we can kind of wrap things up here is, and I think this is one that is definitely relevant as kids start to get a little bit older, but my kid really seems to only like video games now. He used to really love school, but now he just doesn't care about his grades and don't think that they're important. I know we spent a lot of time discussing the importance of grades, but what might be your advice for a parent that's still concerned about that impact that grades will have once they reach high school and that type of thing? Does anyone have any feedback for this one that would like to jump in here?
Can I start?
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I think it's really important to teach our children that technology is not just a toy, it's also a tool. And so to really find ways to connect their interests, their offline interests, their online interests with something in the real world, I think that's a great way to get them off of there. But you meet them where they are. There's some aspect that they're really interested in with the game or whatever activity it is, but take it offline. And also teach them to develop some discipline around technology. And parents, it would help if you exercise discipline with your devices as well, so that technology doesn't become a tyrant. It's a tool, it can be a toy, but it should not be a tyrant.
Carol, I completely agree with you. And to piggyback on that, as parents, we do need to model the behavior we want to see in our kids. And so it's taking time as a family to do things offline. And it might just be, you know, making sure you have dinner together and discussing things that are of interest to everybody, getting your family outside and doing something as a family, volunteering in the community. But I think sometimes we forget that what we do is more powerful than what we say. So our kids look to us and they see what's important to us, how we behave, and what we prioritize. And so I think it's important that we prioritize some family time and model to our kids that we want to be with them and do things with them. And I know that's easier said than done because everything seems so busy, but I really do think make time to spend time with your kids in a high interest activity for all of you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I'll just jump in with a couple of quick thoughts. So from a tutoring perspective, the online interest is helpful because it helps me make a connection. As Michelle said earlier, I'm looking for an entry into their world. So Minecraft is like an easy way to get them to do a writing project that might take a long time to do otherwise, like because they can't think of anything. But also that nonverbal behavior that everybody's been talking about, the modeling, is so much more important. It's, you know, you always say, do what I do, not what I say. So you do what you do, and they look at what you do versus what you say, and they're very good at decoding nonverbal behavior. So family time is important, and just unplugging from technology is important too, and just kind of taking a step back. And if everybody could take a deep breath every once in a while, that would be really helpful.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for adding all of that wonderful last final thoughts there to close it out.
Yes, thank you so much. So thank you everyone for attending all the wonderful options here. I hope you're able to walk away with some ideas that you're able to use. Spread the word. We have another one coming up in a couple weeks for our high schoolers, our teenagers, and that will be our final in this series. We'll also be sharing a recording of this webinar shortly, along with details for how you can redeem those discounts that we talked about. As well as a free PDF for you on study tips for students in grades 5 through 8. So thanks again so much for joining us this evening, and everyone have a great evening and stay healthy. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you to our panelists so much. Appreciate it.